Bitter criticism, regular show. Not a show, not a talk show. Our journalism. Woo! Let's see what happened in Lebanon. It's not a secret. It's not a secret that I'm sharing for Iran. You know, I hope Iran win this war. Isn't it, Tommy? Isn't it? We are supporting Iran from Chile. Woo! Iran from Chile. So, first thing, the only thing I'm going to read now, actually, I guess. Well, I'm going to do the Al Jazeera genocide dossier. Live updates. Al Jazeera. Hezbollah fights Israeli troops in Lebanon as Israel steps up Gaza attacks. Yeah, so Hezbollah is fighting Israel in Lebanon. Understand? They are defending themselves. Thank you, Al Jazeera. Let's read it. Live updates. Live. Hezbollah fights Israeli troops in Lebanon as Israel bombs Gaza. By Virginia Pietromarchi and Alice Sperry, October 1st. Israel steps up bombardment on Gaza Strip, killing dozens of people in separate attacks on shelters and schools, including an orphanage. Battles between Hezbollah fighters and Israeli troops in southern Lebanon intensify, with the Israeli army saying at least 8 soldiers have been killed in combat so far. 2 minutes ago, Israeli airstrikes hit Bekaa Valley. Israeli army has been targeting the Bekaa Valley in eastern Lebanon in the last few days. On Sunday, an airstrike on the village of Sabod in the valley killed 17 members of an entire family. Video shared online and verified by Al Jazeera shows more attacks by the Israeli forces on Wednesday afternoon. We have a tweet from kataeb.org. I'm going to watch the video. We're seeing some shellings, some explosions. That's it. So some bombs. There's some bombing. And what looks like is Lebanon. 8 minutes ago, China urges all parties to exercise restraint, particularly Israel. I read something like that yesterday on China and CGTN, the best newspaper in the world. Fu Kong, China's ambassador to the UN, says his country is, quote, deeply concerned about the conflict and warned that, quote, an all-out war is on the verge of breaking out. Quote, we share the position of the United Nations that any Israeli crossing into Lebanon violates the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Lebanon, he said, urging countries against further inflammatory statements or actions. Quote, we urge all parties, in particular Israel, to exercise restraint and refrain from any actions that could lead to further escalation of the situation, unquote. We have a photograph from China's ambassador to the United Nations, Fu Kong. I didn't know him. Attends a Security Council meeting at the United Nations headquarters. Actually, this Wang Yi is not ambassador at the UN. Wang Yi is kind of the general ambassador something. 15 minutes ago, G7 leaders hopeful diplomatic situation is still possible. Leaders of the group of 7 G7 democracies believe a diplomatic solution to the conflicts in the Middle East, quote, is still possible, Italy says. Italy is the current president of the G7, and the statement was released after Prime Minister Meloni shared a leader's call to discuss the crisis. Quote, expressing strong concern over the escalation in recent hours, it was reiterated that region-wide conflict is in no one's interest and that a diplomatic solution is still possible, the statement said. The leaders also reiterated their firm condemnation of Iran's attack on Israel. The G7 comprises the United States, Canada, UK, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan. 20 minutes ago, EU Aviation Agency advises airlines to avoid Iran airspace. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, has advised all European airlines to avoid Iranian airspace. Quote, in view of the Iranian attack and Israel's announcement of its intention to retaliate, unquote, the EASA advisory warned carriers, quote, not to perform flights in the airspace of Iran at all flight levels, unquote. Quote, the recommendation is valid until October 31, 2024 and can be reviewed earlier and adapt or withdrawn subject to the revised assessment. And 25 minutes ago, France recommends its nationals in Iran to leave. In Iran. Oh, this is interesting. France recommends its nationals in Iran to leave. So bad things could happen to Iran. So sad. Anyway, France's embassy in Iran has recommended that French nationals who are permanent residents in the country should leave temporarily once international air traffic resumes. The message from the embassy, which also urged French nationals visiting Iran to leave immediately, is similar to others given earlier this year when tensions increased between Iran and Israel. 33 minutes ago, Israeli military chief warns of response to Iran's missile attack. Israel will respond to Iran's missile attack, and its forces can strike anywhere in the Middle East, its military chief said. Quote, we will respond. We can locate important targets and we can hit them precisely and powerfully, unquote, said Chief of the General Staff Herzi Haveli in a video from Air Force Base in central Israel, one day after Iran's missile attack on Israel. Quote, we have the capability to reach and strike every location in the Middle East, and those of our enemies who have not yet understood this will understand this soon, unquote, Haveli said. Israeli Chief of the General Staff Herzi Haveli said Israel will respond to Iran's missile attack. 39 minutes ago, Hezbollah announces attack on Israeli infantry unity. The Lebanese group has said that after surveilling Israeli soldiers sheltering in a house outside the Lebanese village of Kfar Kila, its fires detonated an explosive device in the building and then targeted with bullets and rocket propelled grenades. Hezbollah said all members of the unit were either killed or injured, without specifying the number of casualties. And we have another photograph, smoke, yeah. I was trying to say smoke. Just like the video before, there's smoke billows from the site of an Israeli airstrike that targeted that targeted the southern Lebanese village of Kfar Kila, near the border with Israel on Wednesday. Anyway, so sad. 45 minutes ago, photos. Palestinians mourn victims of overnight Israeli attacks in Gaza. A lot of photographs. Gaza residents at Al Ahli Arab Hospital in Gaza City pray for the victims of an Israeli overnight attack. A lot of dead people. What can I say? People mourn relatives killed in the overnight Israeli bombardment. The bodies of the victims killed in Israeli bombardment are transported in the back of a tricycle cart along a street in Khan Yunis. So this is a photograph I wanted to see. That's just the funeral. Palestinian funerals, very, very poor, and tricycles. And 51 minutes ago, more from U.S. ambassador to UN. Thomas Greenfield warns Iran at the UN Security Council against targeting it or Israel. Quote, "Let me be clear, the Iranian regime will be held responsible for its actions, and we strongly warn against Iran or its proxies taking actions against the United States or further actions against Israel," she said. 56 minutes ago now, Hezbollah pushes Israeli forces back as civilians flee. As we previously reported, Hezbollah has said its fighters earlier today were able to repel and inflict losses on Israeli troops in Odaiseh and Yaroun, I guess. Quote, "Those are two very serious incidents, and Hezbollah are now very confident because they have managed to push the Israelis back," said Al Jazeera's Imran Khan, reporting from Hasbaiya in southeastern Lebanon. Quote, "They are seeing this as a strategic victory. Meanwhile, one of the main roads in the area out that is being used by fleeing local residents was bombed again today." Quote, "A lot of people have fled those areas and they are doing so in fear and in panic," said Khan, who noted the road has repeatedly come under attack in recent days. Quote, "That's one of the only ways out of southern Lebanon under those evacuation orders, and Israel has bombed it not just once and not just twice, but 3 times in 48 hours, he said. Every time, he added, the Lebanese army patched it up, but in the latest attack, one of its engineers was wounded. Quote, "Would you want to travel along that road if you thought there might be an airstrike any moment?" asked Khan. "It's really putting fear and panic into people." Definitely. Displaced Syrians and Lebanese sit down to rest after entering Syria from Lebanon via the Jussieh border, crossing the Qusair in Syria's central Homs province on Wednesday. So the situation is terrible in the Middle East. And well, the very last one from Israel, from Damascus, from Syria. 1 hour ago, 3 killed in Israeli attack on Damascus. Syrian state media is reporting that at least 3 civilians have been killed and 3 wounded in an Israeli strike on the capital Damascus. No more details have been made available, but we will bring you the latest as soon as we have. That's it. So I guess it's time for Russia Today. Fyodor Lukyanov is not Timur Fomenko, but is one of my top 5 analysts. October 2nd, 2024, Home World News. Fyodor Lukyanov, the Middle East is on the brink of a full-scale war. It is. All the major players are poking each other, but there is no desire to cross the Rubicon. By Fyodor Lukyanov, the editor-in-chief of Russia in Global Affairs, chairman of the Presidium of the Council on Foreign and Defense Policy, and researcher director of the Valda International Discussion Club. We have a photograph from Israeli tanks maneuver in a staging area in northern Israel, near the border with Lebanon, October 1st. Not a tourist destination for now. 1 year after Hamas' infamous attack on Israel, the Middle East seems to have returned to its eternal state, a hotbed of acute conflict with waves of tension. Outside observers can only look on in horror, while experts shrug their shoulders. That's how it was. That's how it will be. How is the current crisis different from previous ones in the region, you might ask? Well, without pretending to have a deep understanding, let us know that this is striking from the outside. Patron-client relationships are changing, both between regional powers and major external actors. The most obvious is the status of the United States. The current White House administration does not have a clear and consistent line. It's just plugging holes and putting out new fires. The US does not need high-profile events in the Middle East right now. Its priorities are different. Contacts with key players are inconsistent, and relations with the Gulf monarchies, and even more so with Iran, are volatile. But Washington's actions are based on a fundamental contradiction that cannot be resolved, and it has to do with Israel. Ideologically, the current Israeli leadership is not at all close to President Joe Biden's team. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is rather unpopular. Diplomatic efforts are apparently being made to limit the scope of military action, which Israel does not agree with. At the same time, the Biden administration continues to provide military aid because, for America, the Israeli factor is not a foreign but primarily a domestic phenomenon. All the more so at a crucial stage of the election campaign. As a result, the Israeli leadership, convinced that the US cannot pull the plug, decides on its own how to act, sometimes informing its American allies, sometimes forgetting to do so. The change to a relationship that was once considered more or less hierarchical is also evident on the other side. Iran's influence across the region has grown enormously in the 20 years since the US destroyed Saddam's Iraq as its main counterweight and generally stirred up the Middle East. To its credit, Tehran has skillfully seized the opportunities and significantly strengthened its position, while skillfully avoiding direct conflict. The situation for Iran remained difficult, especially when Trump torpedoed the nuclear deal on the one hand and eagerly embarked on a separate arrangement between Israel and the leading Arab countries on the other. Nevertheless, Tehran's weight and influence cannot be denied, especially through its network of regional partner organizations of other Shiites and their sympathizers. Israel is now launching powerful strikes against the entire apparatus with the aim of weakening it as much as possible. if not destroying it, which is hardly possible, and removing its ability to pose a threat for several years to come. Iran will thus be deprived of its most effective tools and will find itself in a position where it will be impossible not to respond. But Tehran is aware of this tactic and has rather modest practical steps behind formidable rhetoric. Nevertheless, prestige is also an issue. Other regional powers either confine themselves to very strong public admonishment, like the Turkish president, or show a high degree of concern, like the Arab Gulf states, or are primarily worried about ensuring that the chaos does not spread to them, Egypt, Jordan. Returning to the external actors, their presence in the conflict area is not very visible. The European Union is not a presence at all. Even if the situation leads to new refugee flows that will directly affect the whole world, the efforts will most likely be aimed at preventing them from entering the bloc and nothing more. Russia obviously has other priorities at the moment and is trying to promote some diplomacy where it can. But let's face it, the demand for this is minimal. The region is teetering on the brink of all-out war. But paradoxically, judging by events, no one wants it. All players hope to walk the tightrope without losing control to escalation. There is no denying the skill of the participants, but it is becoming increasingly easy to fall off. Yeah, so I guess this article was published by the newspaper Rossiyskaya Gazeta and was translated and edited by Russia Today team. Fyodor Lukyanov is not a genius, you know. I prefer Timur Fomenko instead. But Timur Fomenko looks like he ran away or he died, who knows. Never published again. Maybe even Bradley Blankenship published something, who knows. Bradley Blankenship. No, he neither. Well, I guess Russia Today hates me. I guess Russia hates me or fear me. Maybe in fact Russia is a right government. So who know what I'm going to read? Maybe they are just. I'm going to read some from the Kursk region, from Ukraine war, and then I'm going to read some. I'm going to be happy with CGTN. October 2nd, 2024. Home, Russia and former Soviet Union. Ukrainian armored vehicle destroyed in Kursk region. Minister of Defense from Russia. There's a video here. The Russian Defense Ministry has said the vehicle was taken out by an explosives-laden drone. Explosives-laden drone. The Defense Ministry of Moscow has released footage purportedly showing the moment a Russian kamikaze drone blew up a Russian armored vehicle in Russia's Kursk region. Yeah, drones are nice because there's no casualties, isn't it? Kiev launched its incursion into the region on August 6 and initially made some gains. Ukrainian officials claimed the operation was aimed at improving the country's standing for possible peace talks with Moscow. The Russian Defense Ministry soon said the advance had been halted and that its troops had begun pushing the Ukrainian military back. In a post on its Telegram channel on Wednesday, the ministry wrote that the Ukrainian armored vehicle was spotted by a reconnaissance UAV. After analyzing the data, Russian Marines deployed an explosives-laden drone to take out the hardware, which is which its crew had tried to hide in a wooded area. According to the ministry, the attack resulted in a direct hit. In a separate post on Telegram on Wednesday, Russian military officials reported that their personnel, supported by the Air Force as well as artillery fire, had repelled 3 attempts by Ukrainian troops to cross the border. In addition, strikes were carried out against Ukrainian reserves in Sumy region just across the border, the ministry wrote. Aside from the armored vehicle destroyed in the kamikaze drone strike, Russian forces also took out an infantry fighting vehicle, a Bogdana self-propelled artillery gun, and 2 electronic warfare stations. According to the statement, the Post estimated that the Ukrainian military has lost more than 300 troops over the past 24 hours in Kursk region, with 7 more surrendering. That's it. And now let's be happy with CGTN. CGTN, see the difference. CGTN, hope for the whole world. Let's be happy. Let's be happy with CGTN. October 2nd, 2024. Xi Jinping calls for expanding China-Russia all-around practical cooperation. This is important because this was one of my nightmares. You know, if China abandoned Russia, maybe the West will defeat Russia, and maybe, I don't know how many Russians are in Russia, how many Russians are out of there. Imagine all the Russians turning to terrorists. I'm not talking, I'm not, even if you don't love Russian people, you better fear them, you know? They will be desperate, just killing everybody all around the world. That will be terrible. So China should not abandon Russia, you know? If you want to survive, if you want your kids to survive, you have to pray for China-Russia friendship, you know? China, October 2nd, 2024. Xi Jinping calls for expanding China-Russia all-around practical cooperation. October 2nd, 2024. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Wednesday said that he stands ready to work with Russian President Vladimir Putin to take the opportunity of the 75th anniversary of diplomatic ties to continue expanding all-around practical cooperation. She made the remarks in a congratulatory message sent to Russian President Vladimir Putin on the 75th anniversary of diplomatic ties between the two countries. China and Russia, both major countries of the world and key emerging markets, are each other's largest neighbors, she said. Since the establishment of diplomatic ties 75 years ago, the two sides have continuously upgraded the quality of bilateral ties based on the fundamental interests of the two countries and two peoples while drawing from historical experience. He added, lasting good neighbor lines, comprehensive strategic coordination and mutually beneficial cooperation have become the most essential features of bilateral ties between China and Russia, she said. He pointed out that since the beginning of the new era, in particular, the two sides, under the strategic guidance of both presidents and in the face of profound changes unseen in a century, have continued to deepen political mutual trust, achieve remarkable results in practical cooperation, and won deep support for generations of friendship, making important contributions to improving the well-being of the two peoples and to promoting an equal and orderly multipolar world and inclusive economic globalization that benefits all. She said that he highly regards the development of China-Russia relations and stands ready to work with Putin to take the opportunity of the 75th anniversary of diplomatic ties, firmly steer bilateral relations in the right direction, continue to expand all-round practical cooperation and jointly promote high-quality development and modernization of the two countries, so as to make new contributions to safeguarding world peace and stability and promoting the building of a community with a shared future for mankind. In his message to Xi, Putin extended his most sincere congratulations on the anniversary of ties. 3/4 of a century ago, his country was the first in the world to recognize the People's Republic of China, PRC, and quickly establish close collaborative relations with the PRC, he said. The close and mutually beneficial relations between Russia and China have stood the test of time, he added. At present, Russia-China relations have reached the highest level in history, Putin said. The two sides have actively carried out cooperation in politics, economy and trade, science and technology, as well as in other fields, coordinated efficiently in international and regional affairs, and worked together to build a just multipolar world order, he added. Putin also said that he is confident that the two sides will fully implement the consensus reached during his meetings with Xi and further consolidate the Russia-China Comprehensive Strategic Partnership of coordination for the new era, so as to promote security and stability on the Eurasian continent and beyond. Sources: Xinhua News Agency. And that's no. I'm going to keep reading CGTN. You know, I'm going to read something from Pepe Escobar too. I'm not sure if I read this yesterday because it's 12 hours ago. CGTN, Middle East. Live updates. Israel vows retaliation after Iran's missile strikes. Summary: the Israeli military on Tuesday vowed to carry out attacks throughout the Middle East to retaliate against the Iranian missile strikes. Iran's Islamic Revolution Guards Corps, IRGC, said on Tuesday that it had used homegrown missiles in its evening attacks targeting strategic center in Israel. This is a strange, this is a blog, live blog, something. It's not CGTN. The latest. I'm reading the breaking news now. October 1st. Well, I guess this is not so interesting actually. I'm going to see what Pepe Escobar is saying. Just 1 second. Well, there's a post on Telegram, Pepe Escobar Telegram, Strategic Culture Foundation. A symbol was shattered, a legend is born. The resistance more than ever won't back down. That was framed not by a Shiite, but by a Lebanese Christian leader, encapsulating how a true political Islam icon is capable of transcending all artificial borders. I'm going to, this is Nasrallah, a martyr legend. Who knows? Let's read. This is by Pepe Escobar. Nasrallah as martyr legend. The lands of Islam is get ready to channel their rage. September 30. I guess I'm not going to. Maybe I'm going to read something. A symbol was shattered. A legend is born. The resistance, more than ever, won't back down. A symbol was shattered again. That was framed not by a Shiite but by a Lebanese Christian leader, encapsulating how a true political Islam icon is capable of transcending all artificial borders. This decade that I defined as the Raging 20s started with a murder, the all-American target assassination of Quds Force leader General Soleimani and Hajj al-Shaabi commander Abu Mohandes just outside Baghdad airport. General Soleimani, more than a symbol, was the conceptualizer of the axis of resistance. For all its setbacks, especially in the past few weeks, the axis of resistance is much stronger now than in January 2000. Soleimani, the martyr, the legend, left an unparalleled legacy that will never cease to inspire all the West Asian nodes of the resistance. The same will happen to Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. More than a symbol, he was the face of the axis of resistance, extraordinarily popular and respected all across the Arab street and the lands of Islam. For all these setbacks, especially in the past few weeks, the axis of resistance will be much stronger in the next few years than in September 2024. Nasrallah, the martyr, the legend, leaves a legacy comparable to Soleimani's, to whom, incidentally, he was always in awe in military matters and always learning. As a politician, though, as well as a fatherly spiritual source of wisdom, Nasrallah was peerless. Now let's descend from the stars to the gutter. An unredeemable serial war criminal and psychopath genocidal, violating scores of UN resolutions, pop up at the UN General Assembly in New York, and then order from inside the building. Yet another war crime, wiping out an entire block in southern Beirut with dozens of American bunker buster bombs, including the BLU-109 with a JDAM precision guiding system, leaving countless civilians still unaccounted for under the rubble, including Sayyid Nasrallah. As the war criminal addresses the UN General Assembly, over half of the delegates staged as a mass walkout. The wall was de facto nearly empty of real global south diplomats. The remaining audience was presented with yet another trademark display of IQ impaired maps featuring the blessed Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Egypt, Jordan, UAE, and the cursed Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen. A rabid lowly interloper from Polish extraction and complete fake, passing judgment on ancient civilization does not even qualify as gutter-level trash. History is replete with instances of entities which cannot be really qualified as proper nation states. They are more like severe bacteriological infections. The only thing they specialize in is kill, preferably unarmed civilians, as a terrorist tactic. Terribly dangerous, of course. History also tells us the only way they must be dealt with. No more velvet gloves. Israel killed Sayyid Nasrallah for two main reasons. One, because he explicitly reaffirmed Hezbollah will never abandon Gaza for any deal, allowing the genocide and total ethnic cleansing to go on. Second, because the Talmudic psychopathological fanatics want to invade and reoccupy Lebanon. Israel did manage to find serious breaches in Lebanon's and Iran's security. In the case of Beirut, the whole city is infested with infiltrators. Fifth columnists of all stripes move back and forth, doing anything they want. Iran is a much more serious proposition, even as the IRGC's commander, Brigadier General Abbas Nilforoushan, was also killed alongside Nasrallah in Beirut. The IRGC itself in Tehran may have been compromised. As a serious internal security rethink now becomes imperative from Tehran to Beirut, Hezbollah's carefully constructed structure won't collapse because of Nasrallah's assassination. No matter the tsunami of Tawdry psy-ops by the usual suspects. Oh, it's time for my yoga. I'm not doing yoga for 2 weeks maybe. Something like 2 weeks without doing yoga, you know, I'm dying here. I just forgot to do it. And I'm going to show you Daniel Jadue is alive. Daniel Jadue I'm seeing now, I'm trying to see if Daniel Jadue posted something on his own channel. No, but he made an interview. You know, maybe Chilean justice, Chilean oligarch, they want to silence Daniel Jadue. But we don't go. But he gave an interview to this Spanish magazine, this Spanish YouTube channel, and that's what we're going to see now.
De nosotros, a que teníamos que esforzarnos por ser los mejores donde estuviéramos, de tal manera de, entre comillas, siempre lo decía así, cerrarle la boca a la comunidad y a los que pensaban que ella no iba a ser capaz. Y terminó siendo mucho más capaz que muchas otras familias supuestamente bien constituidas, ¿no? Y educó a 3 hijos, incluyendo una hermana de una segunda relación muy posterior, 17 años después. Y por lo tanto esa es mi primera base, ¿no? Y la segunda base, los 2 partidos donde milité en toda mi vida, desde los 12 años en el Frente Popular para la Liberación de Palestina de George Habach, un partido marxista-leninista, el único en la época de esa corriente en el mundo árabe, donde militaban fundamentalmente los cristianos que dentro del mundo árabe y dentro del mundo palestino eran los más laicos, ¿no? Y por lo tanto las corrientes de izquierda estaban alimentadas principalmente por las familias cristianas. Allá no se puede hablar ni siquiera hasta el día de hoy de ser ateo, entre comillas, es una sociedad en donde la no existencia de Dios no es una posibilidad, ¿no? Y por lo tanto los cristianos militaban en los partidos de izquierda, así que yo empiezo a militar primero en las pastorales juveniles, como era lógico en cualquier joven que viene de una familia que viene de Belén, de Betiala, ¿no? Y después en los partidos de izquierda palestinos, hasta el 13 de septiembre del año 1993, en donde, a pesar de tener responsabilidades importantes dentro del partido en América Latina, yo decido renunciar por la firma de los acuerdos de Oslo, que para mí fue el peor error histórico.
Ahora te pregunto por los acuerdos de Oslo, pero antes, a mí me han contado
al día siguiente,
que...
Espérate, al día siguiente... Perdón.
Nada, te decía que ahora te preguntaba por los acuerdos de Oslo, pero me interesa mucho lo que me estás contando de la fe cristiana como un motor ético, político, etcétera, porque a mí me han dicho que estuviste a punto de ser cura, de ordenarte sacerdote, ir a un seminario. ¿Qué es lo que hizo que finalmente no decidieras ejercer el sacerdocio?
A ver, yo creo que esa era una intención muy fuerte de mi madre, sobre todo, ¿no? ¿Por qué? Porque yo fui desde muy pequeño una persona muy inquieta, y una persona muy inquieta en lo intelectual porque físicamente tenía muchas debilidades. Yo nací con muchas enfermedades, estuve los primeros 2-3 años de vida internado en un hospital, y por lo tanto no era el típico niño que jugaba a la pelota ni que andaba haciendo deporte, sino que eso fue mucho después.
So Daniel Jadue sounds like Che Guevara, or something like Che Guevara. I guess it's the same story. Funny, isn't it? So if you don't have health, you will become a revolutionary. What about that? You will become a communist just because you're weak. That's nice. Sounds logic, you know. Look, Tommy. Tommy's not a communist. Well, and now I don't know what to say. Let's go home. Milho, vem aqui. Well, yeah, let's go home. Mursi's over there, and Mursi is in front of us. So I don't know what to say. Daniel Jadue is nice, it's fine. It's better than I thought. But somehow Daniel Jadue is not doing his show